There's a certain kind of person who doesn't just follow the blueprint. The kind who doesn't chase trends or blend in with the usual crowd. They look at a car that most folks would walk right past and they see potential. Not just what it is, but what it could be. The Mitsubishi 3000 GT Spider was never meant to fit in. It was too complex, too heavy, it was too ahead of its own time for its own good. It was a limited run experiment with suspension, aero, a retractable hardtop, and everything a tech dreamer could want, but with a small receiving audience. Until now. What once was an overlooked grand tour has become something else entirely. Sharpened, refined, reimagined, not erasing its identity but leaning into it. Amplifying the best parts, trimming the excess, and letting the car's true character shine through. The result is a Spider that stops people in their tracks. Not because it's loud, but because it's different. A reminder that standing out isn't about being flashy. It's about being true to an era, to a vision, to the kind of style you can't fake. In the sea of sameness, this car is a bold underline. A true love letter to the 90s. And a perfect example of what happens when you take the road less traveled and absolutely own it. Before we get started with the interview, the first thing we have to do is we have to thank our sponsor for the video. Today's sponsor is going to be Stacked Auto House, located in the Washington, D.C. area, for storing, preserving, maintaining your vehicles anywhere from, I don't know, super Porsches or modified S13s. Stacked Auto House has many services outside of storing. They also can do detailing. They have a full detail bay here. They also have lifts for work to get done. If you want to have your vehicle here stored and you also need to get things done like maintenance, he offers a white glove type service where you can have your vehicle worked on while you don't have to worry about it and have it put away for either the winter, the summer, on trips, vacations. Stacked Auto House will service and maintain and store pretty much anything that you have. I mean, we were looking at Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghinis, lifted trucks, classics, S13 drift cars, you name it. Stacked Auto House has everything you need in order to have your car stored, preserved, and maintained. Make sure you follow the link below in the description to get in touch with Stacked Auto House, send them a message, inquire today, and also let them know the District Home Board sent them. I'm gonna sit here and gawk at a GT3 RS. You know, like the tax bracket that this is something that I'll probably never get to see in my life. Like the property value alone is worth more than my salary. All right.
Oh, you want like the '90s? You want the '90s sitcom background laughter?
Yeah. We're gonna do.
Oh, dude.
Josh,
Sir.
I don't know if the viewers know this yet. I've been wanting to do this interview with you for a long time. Now, before it gets really sentimental, Josh has been one hell of a character when it comes to, like, okay, let me put it this way and respectfully. If you wanted to know anything about a particular vehicle that you didn't know you knew about or cared about, Josh has that information. And because of that, it's one of the prime reasons why I wanted to have like a sit down, and one of the prime reasons why we've got to talk about some future shit.
Fair.
So I cannot thank you enough. I also can't thank EJ enough for allowing us to be in Stacked Auto House to do this wonderful like studio space essentially.
Dude, the lighting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chef's kiss.
Oh yeah.
Chef's kiss.
We
highlights
have-
any and all imperfections. Chef's kiss. That's okay. You know.
The wheels like just freaking make up half the filler shading in this in this shot
for
right
sure.
now. Like I feel like it's blinding me right now, but I need it because like it's the bling. I want to be cooked by the bling.
There you go. There you go.
We've known each other for a little over a decade.
2012, I want to say.
Yeah.
I think because 2012 is when I moved to Manassas. Previously, or prior to that, I was living in Bealton.
Yeah.
And I would come out to like meets and shit in
Yeah.
Manassas. But I think 2012, and it was when we were doing like the Checkers meets with like Brian Harvey and
Yep, shout out to
Kyle
Brian
and
Harvey.
you know all those guys.
Fucking Steve Hermanson.
Hermanson.
Yep. God, those are good days, dude.
They were simpler times.
$3 for a burger and
Dude,
shit.
right?
Yeah.
Simpler times. But I think that's when I think I met you kind of through like Ali. I want to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say like 2012-ish or late 2011, somewhere in that ballpark.
At the time, you were driving a NB Miata.
NB Miata, Mazda
Yep.
Speed Miata. Another
Oh.
uber rare 2-year production car.
That was a Mazda Speed?
That was a Mazda Speed, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know
And then
that.
I went and, did the most sacrilegious thing I could do. And I took a car that was already super rare, 2-year
Yeah.
production car.
Yeah.
And they only made 394 of the lava orange ones
Yeah.
because the plant in Hiroshima,
Yeah.
and this is like not like a funny joke or anything,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the plant burned down.
Okay. Unfortunate.
God bless. Thoughts and prayers. But that's why they only made 394 of them. They were slated to make more. So all the other colors, the Velocity Red, the whatever the silver color was called, and the
Yeah.
black, they made way more of those in those colors.
But
and
because
then,
it burned down, they had limited.
and so then it burned down, and they only made 394 of the orange ones. So then what did I do? I was like, well, fuck all that. I went and painted it brown.
and slammed it on its nuts.
Slammed it on its nuts.
Yeah.
It took anything and everything that made that car like a performance-oriented version
Yeah.
of that car.
Just threw it out the fucking
I was like,
window.
yeah, fuck all that. I just want it to be hot boy spec. I want it to be low. I want it to look cool.
The millions and billions of dollars of engineering you put on this chassis.
It was very divisive. It's very.
Yeah.
I think anything I do with most of my cars is very polarizing, very subjective.
Right. Yeah,
very
but-
much in the eye of the beholder. And so I got a lot of shit for that.
That's
but
like the beauty of the whole thing is that it's my fucking car. You know what I
100%.
mean? Like
100%.
And I'm going to I'm reverse engineering a lot of shit and I'm doing it the way I want to.
Yeah, I've always been way more aesthetics focused, aesthetics driven. I've had some like somewhat fast cars throughout the years, nothing to like write home about, but
Yeah.
the Mazda Speed I would say it was quick. I wouldn't say it was fast.
Sure.
This, not fast.
Yeah.
Not in any sense of the word. This is like one of the slowest things I've ever owned. But it's okay, because I knew what I was getting myself into going in, and I didn't really care about going fast.
So we started off with the Miata. You had a
Yep.
few cars in between. I remember
Yep.
the Suzuki SX4.
I had the lifted SX4.
Yep.
That was my daily for a while, and
Yep.
then I had the Crossfire, the SRT6.
Yeah, the SRT6. Oh my God! Here's a photo of this. That was one of my favorite cars that you made because it was so different.
Very
And
different.
You have had a track record, and now there's the 3000 GT.
So the Crossfire was technically the SRT6 was technically a 1-year production car.
Okay.
Which was
in
05.
conjunction with Chrysler.
It was actually, they were built in the same factory as the SLK 32 AMGs. And it was
Okay.
literally just an SLK 32 AMG with a Chrysler body on it.
Okay.
And they made a handful of 06s, so you could technically say it was a 2-year production car, but the 06s were all PR cars.
Okay.
And they did end up getting sold off after it kind of ran its circuit at all the car shows and whatnot. But there's only like a handful of 06s that you couldn't go into a dealership and order an 06. You just got lucky and got an 06 PR car. Mine was an 05, so mine was just the basic plug version of the SRT6. But yeah, I seem to have, I gravitate towards cars that they made for very short amount of time.
Right, and they're, in my opinion, unique towards like the general public.
Oh, for sure.
So like,
for sure.
the NV Miata, I mean, not so much the color obviously being the rare part, but like the SX4, the SRT6, the 3000 GT.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like you have an affinity towards Chrysler because, if I'm not mistaken, this was also the 3000 GT was also in conjunction, or they paired with
cahoots
Chrysler.
So I mean they
in cahoots. Yeah, it's a good word for it.
So yeah, of course the Stealth being the sister car of the 3S platform.
Yeah.
It was really more. It was designed and engineered by Mitsubishi,
Sure.
and then they allowed Dodge to kind of come in and
we need to
have
get into
their
the American
own,
market.
Yeah, and have their own version. I mean, it's the same motor, same chassis, same everything, interior and all that.
Yeah.
It was really just aesthetic differences, much like the Crossfire when you look at it next to the SLK. It's just exterior aesthetic differences is really the only difference between a Stealth and now they never made a Spider version of a Stealth.
The Stealth, right?
But I mean, otherwise, very much the same car, just with different exterior amenities.
So break it down for me. This is Mitsubishi 3000 GT.
Yep, it's a 95 3000 GT.
Okay.
It's obviously the Spider, and it's the SL trim. So two different trim levels. You have your SL, and then you have your VR4. The SL is the front-wheel drive, non-turbo.
Okay.
VR4 is the the more sought-after version, which is the all-wheel drive, twin-turbo.
And the VR4 came with like a whole bunch of different, like,
whole bunch of bullshit that was really cool and technologically advanced at the time.
Yeah.
None of it held up.
Right. Like the VR4 is literally the variable steering for
four-wheel steering. They had, so depending on what year VR4 you got, some of them came with active aero. They had like a chin spoiler that would drop down.
Yep.
They would have active exhausts.
That's so cool.
So the 95 Spider, not the 90s, because there is some differences between the 95 and 96 Spiders.
Sure.
So this came from the factory with active suspension, where you could. You basically have a sport and a touring mode where you could soften up or stiffen up the dampers.
Yeah.
Of course, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, I threw that out the window and put some, Hot Boy BCs with Swift springs on it.
Hell yeah.
And it's funny because to this day, there's the active suspension module is located in the back, the driver's side, like quarter panel area, like behind all the plastic. You basically have to take your whole interior apart to get to it. So because I don't have active suspension, I just have it like cut and like taped off,
right?
Where it would go into the struts. I just have a flashing light on my gauge cluster, and I put a sticker over it because that was way easier to do than taking my whole car apart. And it's not hurting anything. It's just because it's looking for a signal. To know if it's in sport or touring mode.
You're driving at night and the thing is just.
So it was a bright green flashing light. So I was like, we're just gonna put a sticker over that, and problem solved.
So what like? This is really kind of a loaded question.
Yeah.
There are, in the 90s, in like the selection of cars that you had, and not even, we'll branch even out of JDM cars, because at something of like let's boil it down to what it could be. It's a Grand Tour. Right?
Yep.
It's
hence the name GT. That literally is derived from Grand Touring.
Right. And in Japan, it's called the GTO.
GTO, yep.
Yep. And it's based off of the Diamante chassis, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's kind of like what Lexus did with the RC and the IS.
Yeah.
It's same thing.
So yeah, similar.
But they marketed the car as a Grand Tourer, so it was in competition. At the time, I think it was like, what, 60 grand for this car?
So in 1995, now granted, the Spider was significantly more expensive because it was a very like special 2-year production. They got sent off to ASC, American Sunroof Corporation.
Yeah.
They did all the conversions for like your 240SX, your S13 convertibles were done by ASC, your 300ZX convertibles were done by ASC. Chevy SSR.
This is, if I'm not mistaken, the
ASC.
first production hardtop,
Power hardtop.
power
yeah.
hardtop ever made.
Yeah.
As outside of like the 1930s and 50s.
Well, apparently like Ford had like some kind of weird power hardtop with the Fairlane back in the day.
Sure.
But I've seen that as being touted as like the first power hardtop, but then I've also seen this as being so.
Sure.
I don't know what the difference is there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people allude to this as being the first like from the factory power hardtop.
Yeah.
Which obviously we'll get to why there's a roof box on there at some point because people probably like, and I get that. That's one of the most popular questions I get. Most common questions is like, why do you have a roof box on a hardtop? And we'll get to that.
Yeah,
we'll get to that.
Of course. The decision that you made, and that was the point I was trying to come across, was there's plenty of GT cars in this aspect
Sure.
from the 90s that you could choose from. And so outside of being, of course, unique, it is not a Josh car unless it's unique. And then let's be honest,
100%.
I think you have owned, I don't think I know anybody else who has a selection or taste in cars like you in the Northern Virginia area.
I have a very eclectic taste in cars, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what gravitated towards the 3000 GT out of, say, what everybody else does, an R32, Skyline, R33 or a Supra, which is arguably, I'm not going to get into that, or whatever.
What was 300 ZXs, your MR2s, your NSXs,
yep.
yeah. So back in the day, I grew up playing video games like Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, Need for Speed Underground, Tokyo Extreme Racers. Like, I'm such a fanboy for that.
Hell yeah.
Shout out to Genki for bringing that game series back. I already beat the early access of that entirely.
Yeah.
Love that game.
That's tight.
And so, I would get together with my friends. We'd do split screen. And one thing I always noticed is the 3000 GT, for whatever reason, it just kind of seemed like it was one of the cars that got overlooked. And so, when I'd play with my buddies, they would build, like you were saying, they would build the Supras, they would build the NSXs, the Skylines, and not a lot of people really paid a lot of attention or a lot of notice to the 3000 GTs. Yeah. And I mean, I always thought they looked really cool. They kind of have like an uber exotic look to them, dare I say, with just the body lines and the vents on the side and just like the low profile of the car as a whole.
It was the time in the 90s to be daring.
You know what I mean? And they definitely, Mitsubishi kind of threw a Hail Mary with this car and with the styling and all the like random bullshit technology they packed into it that, as I mentioned before, didn't age well. Yeah. Thankfully, the SL doesn't have it has some of that shit, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Not all of it. So, but yeah, so that was one factor.
Sure.
Was even at a young age, I was kind of always trying to be different.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of always been my MO, my calling card with everything in life, not just cars.
Yeah.
And so there was that. And then so specifically to the Spider. So if you get into the brass tacks, get away from just it being a 3000 GT, and you talk about the Spider variant. It was I talked about this at some point on my Instagram. I can't remember. It was like 2003. So I graduated high school in 2005. So I would have been like a sophomore.
Damn, you were that much older than I am?
Yeah, dude, I'm 38.
Holy shit. Yeah. Sorry, I don't mean to throw it. Wait, what? I thought we were the same age.
I aged somewhat gracefully. I'm somewhat of a man-child. So,
you gotta show me the secret. Unique cars.
Unique cars. Unique cars, old cats.
Old cats.
And my cat's fucking almost as old as me, I feel like. So
yeah, no shit.
Shout out to Princess Lucy. She's 18.
Shout out to Princess Lucy.
Had her since 2009. She's the homie, so she's like my best friend.
She's probably chilling right now.
She's chilling right now.
Having a beer,
100%.
watching TV.
Just blowing it up. Shit's a lot in her old age, dude. I had her on diarrhea medication. Anyways, no one needs to know that, but that's just the kind of person I am. It wouldn't be a video with me if I didn't talk about poop at least one time.
Yeah,
so we just got that out of the way.
And also Lucy.
And also Lucy, 100%. That's, I was like, dude, I'm going to wear a very just obnoxious shirt to this. But yeah, back to the Spider variant specifically. So Sport Compact Car had an issue in 2003 that Sport Compact Car used to do a thing every year called the Ultimate Street Car Shootout.
Okay.
I think the Ultimate Street Car Shootout may still exist in some. It's obviously not done by Sport Compact Car, RIP. They've, much like most print magazines, they're long gone.
Yeah.
But anywho, they would just get together a big group of cars, and it was exactly what it sounded like. It was just a big shootout where they would measure all sorts of stuff like acceleration, braking. They had like an autocross thing set up, and they would go and take it around track, and then they would rate it based off of a number. They also had shit like comfort and daily drivability. They would basically go and rate the cars, and then present a winner at the end. And,
right.
But yeah, in 2003, a guy entered a 3000 GT Spider VR4. It did very poorly.
Yeah.
It's such a bloated, heavy car.
Yeah.
And it just had basic bolt-ons. It kind of ended up in the competition on the principle that it was unique.
Yeah.
But I remember at that time, so this was right before I got my driver's license. Yeah. And at that time, I really wanted a 3000 GT.
Yeah.
As my first car. Didn't happen. I ended up getting an FCRX7 convertible.
Which is cool.
Still really cool.
Yeah.
Because it was much more affordable. It was an 88 versus this being a 95. I mean, it was much more within my reach.
Sure.
My Subway sandwich artist budget.
Yeah.
But I remember seeing that 3000 GT Spider in that issue, and that was the first time that I'd ever seen the Spider version of that car.
Yeah.
And so me being me, the 3000 GT is already kind of rare and unique in its own right.
Yeah.
Then you add in the Spider variant on top of that, and that, high school me was just head over heels for that car.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, going back to what I was saying earlier, I think I ADHD'd and went off topic, but this car knew, the 3000 GT Spider SL new was 62.5, 63, and then the VR4 was 67.
That's
and if you adjust that for
90s?
modern inflation, that's like 100 and some.
Holy shit.
I don't even know what that would be, but I think it's over $100 grand adjusted for because you figure this car's 30 years old now.
Yeah.
So
damn, so they were in a territory that's new to them. It's new to Mitsubishi because they had the Diamant, they had the Galant. The Galant was their prime car. That's where the VR4 came from.
Yeah.
Was in rally, and then before that was the Colt, and then it was the I'm forgetting them, the vans and whatnot. Which were...
Well, you also had I don't know if you mentioned this, but you also had your Eclipses and stuff.
Yeah, and your Eclipses, yeah, of course. And that didn't come out until later, but that was the effective mid-range, I guess, sports car, right? Before
you had
Evos
your
and stuff.
Eclipses, kind of like your entry level.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you had your
Wedge.
your Mirage was very low level.
Yeah, yeah.
That I guess we could say that was very entry level.
yeah.
And this was more of the high end, more of the flagship car.
Yeah. It's a GT
also, of course,
car.
you also had the Evos.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't get the Evos till much later.
Yeah,
until
Lancers.
the Evo 8.
Yeah, because they were still making the Lancers for fucking 8 generations.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got prior to the Lancer, we got the Mirage.
Right.
Which Mirage was the same thing as an Evo or not an Evo, but same thing as a Lancer.
Right.
But we just got the shitty version without the 4G63.
Yeah. And this is a 6G.
6G72.
6G72.
Yep.
So, and I'm sorry to transition
V6.
back. So picking this car up, I mean, process. I can't imagine how many Spiders are for sale.
Not me. Yeah. So they made 1,034 between 95 and 96.
Okay.
And like I mentioned before, there is some differences, some key differences between the 95 and the 96 that make each model year kind of unique to itself. So, God, as much as I am a nerd for this car, I don't think I could break down so I can break down the numbers like this.
Yeah.
Between 95 and 96, there was 1,034 made.
Okay.
Basically, what Mitsubishi did is they took just a regular 3000 GT coupe, they sent it to ASC in America.
Yep.
And
Cali?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I have a fun fact about ASC here in a second, but
Hell yeah.
it's my favorite thing to mention about them.
Josh's fun fact.
A fun fact. So ASC, cut them up, whatever, and did the whole power hardtop conversions.
Which you wouldn't even know it was fucking custom made. I thought that's OEM built. It's crazy. It's insane how they did that.
And just I'll tangent here for a second. So one of my favorite things about the Spiders is the silhouette and the body line is very different than the regular. It's almost confusing because we refer to the regular 3000 GT as the coupe, but this has a more coupe-esque body line.
Yeah.
So if you think about, and I know this is a silly comparison to make, but if you think about a notchback Mustang versus fastback, or if you think about a Z06 Corvette versus just your Grand Sport.
Sure.
this has the Z06 or the notchback where it's got more of a coupe body line.
Yeah.
Whereas the regular 3000 GT, which is actually the coupe,
Slopes
has
back.
the glass that goes all the way towards the rear hatch.
That's a
so
good
this
point.
has like that big flat area.
Yeah.
And then it has the, in the lid, the tonneau lid that lifts up,
Yeah.
it has like the wing that is kind of integrated into it. So it has its own unique wing when compared to a regular 3000 GT or, the VR4s. They had a
It's like
bunch
they
of different.
took like the Jetson car with the bubble right in the middle, and they're just like, fuck it, throw it on that and make it look
Oh
futuristic.
God, you made a Jetsons reference. Corey Fogel is never going to live that one down. We were going down to Beach Bash a couple years ago.
Oh,
and he just said,
Beach Bash.
after I put the roof box on, he's like, you look like fucking George Jetson scooting down the road. And I was like, it's fair. He's like, the car looks like a spaceship. And I was like, that's a fair statement.
That's a fair
I'll
statement.
take that as a compliment.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Spaceships don't come equipped with rear view mirrors, so
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
and it doesn't even look like you have them, which is tight.
Yeah, the Bomex mirrors are very useless.
Fucking wild, dude.
Very useless.
Yeah.
They're super cool. It's something I wanted like forever. Even when I had my RX-7, I wanted some Bomex mirrors. And I got really, 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 really lucky and fortunate to score an authentic set of Bomex mirrors for this car.
Before we get into mods, so this car popped up somewhere.
I got really lucky with this.
I'm like, I don't know how because it's originally a black car.
Yes, it's so the car is wrapped.
Right.
It's sable black, which is a single stage black underneath the
AKA
wrap.
Lexus Gold is what it is. No.
Oh well, the color, yeah. So the color,
But sable black is the OG
Sable
color.
black is the OG color, which is actually the headlights. So the 3000 GTs, the headlights are color match for this year, at least for this body style.
Because they're supposed to be flip-ups. They were.
No. So flip-ups were only on the first gen. We're only the 91 to 93.
There's 3?
There's technically 2 gens of 3000 GTs, but there's different. So the first gen is the flip-ups.
Yeah.
That's 91 to 93. Then you had the 94 to 99, but they had a couple of different facelifts throughout those years. So like the 94 to 96 have the same bumper and headlights. And then you have the 97, 98, which has the same headlights but a different bumper. And then you have the 99, which has completely different headlights and a completely different front fascia. But
That's cool.
The second, the 94 to 99 are still one generation, the second gen. But they just have different, depending on what year you have. This is actually my favorite bumper for this car.
Yeah, no, arguably.
It has, I call it the cat whiskers.
Yeah.
And it's got the shark fins.
Yeah, it does look like a cat.
There's a lot of like weird touches on this bumper that I feel like they kind of diluted it a little bit in the later models. And that's all subjective because some people prefer the 99 front. Some people prefer the 97, 98 front bumper.
Sure.
But yeah, the headlights are paint matched on these to the color of the car.
Okay.
So I got really lucky with this being sable black because otherwise, I'd have
If it was
if you wrap
red,
it, you'd have like red fucking headlights or something. But yeah, so sable black underneath. Going back to numbers, they made 83 sable black 95 SLs.
Jeez.
So
1 out of 83 in the U.S.
Fun fact, the Spider was a U.S. market only car.
Like the S13 Vert.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
That's
So I mean,
cool.
there's some Spiders that have since, been imported to other areas of the world.
Sure.
Because I'm on a 3000 GT Spider Facebook page, and there's some random ones here and there throughout. But I mean, vast majority of them are still within the U.S.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the fact that it's sable black underneath is what lended to me wrapping it versus painting it.
Right.
So originally I was looking at painting it Lexus Egyptian Sand Pearl, which is like an OEM SC430 color.
Yeah.
It's the old man tan.
Yeah.
And I was kind of on the fence about doing it when I was thinking about cost, when I was thinking about the biggest thing being the rarity of this car.
Yeah.
And it being such a neutral color to wrap over. Because, it like when I pop the hood, it's just black. It's gloss black. It looks normal. Doesn't look, it's not like you pop the hood and it's like bright yellow or red or purple or something underneath.
Exactly.
And the black headlights, the black, it hides like seams and shit like that.
Black cars are arguably the easiest cars to wrap.
100%.
Yeah,
That's why both my car and my truck are both black.
Yeah. Oh, that one
underneath the wrap.
Yeah. The
But
timeline.
Yeah, it worked out extremely well that I found a black one.
You built an entire timeline for this car before owning the car.
100%.
For mods. So
I had an idea well before I was already kind of chomping at the bit when I had still had the Crossfire.
Yeah.
Wanting to sell that and to move on, and I knew I wanted to move on to one of the that was the end goal, was to part ways with the Crossfire, and then use a chunk that was paid off. Use a chunk of that money to kind of start the funding.
A few moments later.
All right, that was a fucking fantastic Sheets break. Now I'm full.
Dude, shout out to Sheets.
Shout out to fucking Sheets.
Anybody that
dude.
knows me knows how obsessed Sheets follows me on Instagram.
This man goes.
That's saying a lot.
TJ, this man goes on Facebook and he's just like, yo, I got something to confess to y'all. Like, I'm addicted to Sheets. like,
So where I grew up in Bealton, there wasn't fucking anything there. There was a Sheets. And when I got my driver's license, that was the spot where all me and all the car guys would go. And then everywhere I've lived, lived in Gainesville, there's a Sheets right there. Lived in Haymarket, Sheets. Lived in Manassas, Sheets. I live in Bristow now, there's a Sheets.
So what I'm hearing is it's a requirement anywhere you move there has
Yes.
oh, absolutely.
Yes, I was talking to my wife about me, wanting us to move somewhere like a completely different area, like pick up and just. I've lived in Northern Virginia my whole life, basically.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, but like if we move to X, Y, and Z places, she's like, there's not going to be Sheets. I'm like, fuck.
See? And then, like, that's the fuck. It can't be like a Royal.
Yeah,
Fuck
I know.
that.
It's
Yeah.
a 24-hour hug. That's what it is. Anytime, you're feeling sad, you're feeling a little down.
Yeah, go
you
get a fucking Sheets burrito.
Yeah, get a Sheets burrito, some chicken tendies.
yeah, dude.
It's a hug in a bag, dude. 100%. 100%. It's comfort food.
Oh, Wawa.
Yeah,
Wawa is a good
Nobody
contender.
wants a little pussy burrito. I want a
Yeah.
monster, bro.
I'll fuck with the Wawa because their Italian is actually dope. Because it's not a lot of fucking bread.
Wawa has its place. If you want
Yeah.
like a sub, like a good sub,
Yeah.
Wawa. But if
Yeah.
you want anything like deep fried and terrible
Yeah.
for you, Sheets.
Hungover, Sheets.
Oh yeah,
Drunk,
absolutely.
Sheets. Like,
Did you know that you can complain to corporate through Facebook to places?
No shit.
Because I complained to
Wait, really?
Sonic, the
On
driver-
Facebook?
The fast food.
Yeah.
They got rid of the Chicago dog. That was the only reason I drove 40 minutes to
Okay.
Damn.
to go
Yeah.
get that stupid hot dog.
you want to know why? Because they're gonna pull a McDonald's and be like, "Yo, you like that fucking Chicago dog?
Best we can do is a Seattle dog. It's
Yeah.
full of depression and rain.
We'll bring it back, but you gotta beg for it. Get on your fucking knees." Yeah. Dude, that's what I did about the snack wrap. Anyways, all right, I'm getting fucking way off topic.
You're good. You're good. Shout out to Sheets.
Shout out to Sheets, dude. Fucking sponsor this video, goddammit. Thank you. All right, so your modification timeline. No, it's
Yes.
This is the interesting part. You
Yep.
found the car,
Like effortlessly
Yeah.
found the car.
Yeah.
Fucking weirdest thing in the world.
and then you were like, "These are the mods."
Yeah.
And
So-
run me through your list, because like you're an aesthetics person, obviously maintenance.
Very much so. Very much
maintenance
so.
is key. Maintenance is very key.
Well, I did a bunch of maintenance. So I bought the car in the beginning of 2019. I had the idea of selling the Crossfire and buying this probably around somewhere in 2018. Found this car just very randomly, very lucky.
Yeah.
Local in Arlington.
Yeah.
With 31,000 original miles on it. He was the second owner. Life was lifing.
31.
It's only got like 43.
Holy shit!
I don't know, it's the gauge cluster's animal. I could go look, but I think it's like 43 and change.
I didn't know it was that low.
Yeah, it's super low mileage.
Holy shit!
It still has the zinc coating on most of the hardware underneath the hood.
so
I bought a engine bay dress up kit from Z-Spec.
Yeah.
On Black Friday, and
Yeah.
ended up not using it and selling it because Viet Dang was like, "Why are you gonna put those stupid bolts on?" No disrespect to the dress-up bolt companies, but
Yeah.
he's like, "You still have the original zinc coating on a lot of your bolts." He's like, "That's way cooler." And I was
They're
like,
it's mint.
"You're right. That is way cooler." So
Yeah.
I sold the dress-up bolts to a buddy of mine, another 3000 GT guy named James.
Yeah.
And just kept running the
So 31,000 miles and you bought it.
when I bought it. Yeah.
And then what was the timeline for your? I mean, suspension and wheels is like.
Yeah.
prime.
Well, so I
You had a
originally.
phase too. You were phasing them out or phasing out your mods too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so I kind of had the basics planned out.
Yeah.
I'd reached out to a buddy of mine. I can't remember who it was. I'd have to go and look at the Instagram post.
Yeah.
Back in like 2018, before I bought the car, and
Yeah.
I had a render done. Now, it wasn't this color. This color came about. Like the idea for this color came about a little bit later. But
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to do kind of like almost like a VIP inspired look. I wanted like a bigger full face 19-inch wheel.
Yeah.
I think 19 suit this car super well.
Oh yeah.
I knew I wanted it to be like super slammed. I had some ideas for what I wanted to do with like a custom exhaust setup. I didn't want to buy an off-the-shelf exhaust.
Sure.
Nova Speed Shop built the catback on this car, and
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I got the car in February of 2019. Like I said, locally, Arlington. I literally went on eBay and it was like right there. Like it was like a one and done search, and I was like, no fucking way.
Yeah.
Steve Hermanson went with me to look at it, and he was like, you have to buy this car. He's like, you're not going to find
A cleaner example.
a cleaner, like just better positioned example, like
Yeah.
local, like it's
Yeah.
So bought it. I started stockpiling mods for it, so I immediately bought the BCs with custom spring rates and everything.
Hell yeah.
And I bought like actually Erica bought me the clear side markers, and I started picking up little things here and there, and then my timeline got real fucked up because as I started doing some stuff to it, I was driving home from my buddy's house, and I noticed it felt, so it's an automatic, it's a 4-speed automatic, bro.
Hell yeah.
So, just like a factoid. I have lots of factoids. So the Spider SLs were only offered an automatic. So
Okay.
you could get an SL coupe
Yeah.
with a manual, with a 5-speed manual.
Yeah.
You couldn't get an SL Spider with a manual. Just they didn't make
Didn't
it.
exist.
All the VR4 Spiders were manual. All the SL Spiders were automatic.
Okay. That's
Sucks,
cool.
but like again, this is not a performance-minded
Yeah.
car. It doesn't really. I thought about swapping the trans, but I was like, nah.
It's a lot of work.
So on the topic of transmissions, coming home one night and the trans starts slipping, and I get to my then apartment, got to back into a spot, and there's no reverse. And so I did some research, and initially I thought it was a shift solenoid. I bought the shift solenoid. Phil from Nova Speed Shop came out, picked up the car the next day or whatever it was, and trailered it over to their shop. Because I was too afraid to drive it, and with it being the way it was, I didn't want to make something worse potentially.
Yeah.
And he calls me or messages me the next day, and he's like, "Oh, I have good news and bad news." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "The good news is that you can return your shift solenoid." And he's like, "The bad news is," and they sent me a picture. He had dropped the trans pan, the oil pan, and there was just like chunks of like gears, and
metal and
so the
shit.
transmission had just like blew the fuck up.
Damn.
Which is funny because when I first bought this car, one of the very first things I did is I ran through a bunch of maintenance with Nova Speed Shop.
Yeah.
And they did an awesome job. They did like the water pump, the timing belt, a bunch of like just miscellaneous gasket seals, whatever.
Sure.
One thing I didn't have them do because the car was so low mileage is I didn't have them flush the trans.
Yeah.
Come to find out, and I had no idea, you're supposed to service these transmissions every 30,000 miles.
Yeah.
I was just over 30,000 miles.
And it sat for a while.
And it sat for a very long
Yeah.
it sat for a long time with the previous owner. It sat for a long time with me.
Yeah.
And obviously when you're not doing your proper heat cycling, the transmission fluid probably just lost all of its viscosity and was just like water.
And it eats seals and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So it wasn't doing a great job of protecting the transmission, the gears from friction.
Sure.
And so it just
yeah.
and so so I ended up having to source a whole new transmission, and then that was right at the heels of doing all the other maintenance and then buying some mods. So it set me back because, finding the trans and then paying for the labor of doing that.
Yeah.
That pushed me back for a while. So it really wasn't until about 2021 when I had the car wrapped and all that. I kind of did like the first phase of modifications in 2021. So for the first 2 years that I owned the car, it mostly just sat because I was stockpiling. I would take it out here and there.
Yeah.
Back when the top worked, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
I would put the top down, and Eric and I would go to take it to like a brewery or a winery or something. It was like a weekend putzer. But I didn't really take it to any like cars and coffees or anything. It was stock. It wasn't really cool, in my opinion. It was cool to like people that know what the car is, but it didn't look how I wanted it to look. So I mostly just kind of kept it at home.
Yeah.
And for a while, there was a little bit of overlap with this and the Crossfire. So I was still driving the Crossfire to like car shows.
Oh, you had
and
both
shit
at the
like
same
that.
time?
I had both at the same time.
Damn, hell yeah.
I had a cover for this.
Yeah.
Because 30-year-old convertibles don't seal super well.
No.
So I lived in my apartment complex at the time when I bought this, and they had a strict rule of no car covers. So I like lived here in my apartment complex, but I'd park the car way in like the back lot, like near another building that I didn't even live in.
Yeah.
As far away from like prying eyes from the leasing company as I could, because I kept it under a cover.
Yeah.
And I'd go over like once a day and just make sure
Had to
the
be
cover's still on, the car's still there. And
The hidden gem in the corner.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I sold the Crossfire, and then this was able to, when we bought our house, then this exclusively lived in the garage.
The garage.
So,
Oh yeah. And so you did when you started modding.
Yep.
You got BC coilovers.
BC type BRs, originally just with their springs with custom spring rates.
Yeah, and then you went stiffer.
I've since switched over. Last year, after I did the wheels, I switched over to Swifts.
Okay.
And I went even more hot boy with the spring rates because I had to with how aggressive these are comparative to. So the previous wheels, as you know, I had a set of JDM Z40 Toyota Soar wheels, which are it's a glorified way of saying I had
SC430
wheels.
Yeah.
But they were the actual real deal legit Soar wheels. The center cap's different, the stamping on the inside of the barrel's different.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that.
And I had massive Adaptec Speedwear adapters running. I had 25 millimeter adapters in the front and 40 mil adapters in the rear.
What
they were
bolt pattern is this?
5x114.3.
Oh, and the SCs are the same thing too.
It's the same, but the
hub
reason
size?
the center bore on the wheels was much smaller than the center bore on the hub.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Because if the center bore on the hub is bigger, you can get hub-centric rings.
Yeah.
If it's smaller,
then
there's nothing you can do.
You have to put an adapter.
It needed spacers anyways.
Yeah.
You know, they were 18 by 8s.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting Adaptec Speedwear to make me adapters. And the only thing they were adapting was, the center bore on the outside versus the center bore on the inside.
Sure.
But those were always intended to be temporary wheels.
Yeah.
But
it looked cool.
I got a lot of compliments and praise. And they definitely suited the style of the car, but they never really gave me the aggressive fitment.
Yeah.
Because I have adjustable. So it's kind of going through the mods here.
Yeah.
I have a 3SX adjustable camber and tow arms in the back.
Okay.
And then, of course, the coilovers, you have some camber adjustment on the camber
hats.
plates,
Yeah.
on the top hats. So I had the ability to run a much more aggressive setup, but I really wasn't taking advantage of the suspension mods that I'd done with those wheels.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So going to these wheels, that there's, as with most things you'll find with this car, there's a story behind everything.
Yeah, and these are
GMR Veronas.
Okay.
So my favorite wheel, my end-all be-all, holy grail wheel, has always been and will always be, and I'll die on this hill, is the Veilside Andrew Racing F, which is the wheel that was popularized by the original Fast and Furious. It was the wheel that was on Dom's RX-7.
Yeah.
People call them the clock hand wheel because of their styling is very divisive.
Yeah.
The problem is those wheels have been discontinued for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And the few times you find a set, people want, I was telling you earlier, there's a set that my buddy Jason tagged me in recently, and there's two. There are two of them.
Yeah.
They were pulled. They looked like they were pulled off the bottom of the fucking Atlantic Ocean, and they want $2,000 for them for just two wheels.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's gonna get it.
He was talking about buying them.
Yeah.
Because after I bought these, he was looking into them.
No, I'm saying he's gonna get $2,000 for them.
Oh yeah. The guy that sold them. Oh, 100%.
He's gonna get it $2,000.
But the problem with those wheels is they were only offered as big as an 18-inch diameter.
Right.
And I realize you can buy them, you can rebuild them.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't like when you step up from an 18 to a 19 or a 17 to an 18 is you have that void of space between the edge of the spoke and then the lip.
Yeah.
Because you have to step it up to fit the a 19-inch barrel to an 18-inch face.
And it doesn't look as big of a face.
And exactly. And I just don't like that. So even if, let's just say hypothetically, even if I got a real deal set of the Veilside Andrew Racing, yes, the street cred and the clout and everything I would get would be more than the GMRs.
Yeah.
But I know this sounds sacrilegious to say.
Yeah.
So enter comments here where people are going to give me shit. But it's I think the GMRs ultimately would look better just because, yes, they're technically kind of a rep. Yeah. I would say they're more of an inspired by design because the center caps on these very different than the Veilside has a locking cap that covers all the lugs.
Right.
These have exposed lugs and a gel cap.
Yeah.
So again, sacrilege. I kind of think these look better than the Veilsides. The spoke is very much the same.
So arguably, replica wheels. I think the category of replica wheels has changed, and not to go too off topic, but it's changed, right? Because now you have companies like ESR, which back in our day was a junk company.
Oh yeah.
And now they make 3-piece wheels.
Now they make 3-piece wheels.
And they come out in forged and so on and so forth. I personally don't. I don't have any. I don't care enough to buy replica cast wheels.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because for the money that I'd spend on a new set of cast wheels, I can buy a used set of 3-piece wheels.
Sure.
Arguably at this point, because I've bought RSs for $1,500 and so on and so forth.
And then rebuild and refinish them.
And rebuild and refinish them and take the time and effort to do that.
I think
these, for instance, I think these are great options for getting exactly what you want, building exactly how you need to. They're modern, so I'm sure that the metallurgy or whatever is different. So it's
it's all circumstantial. So I look at it like this: like GMRs in general, GMRs at large. I mean, first and foremost, I love them. They're owned by VR Wheels. It's like VR Wheels. It's like their boutique.
Oh, yeah.
It's like their boutique wheel company.
Shit, I didn't know they were.
Yeah, they're part of VR.
Huh.
And when I ordered these, I can't say enough great things about the whole experience. I mean, the customer service, kind of going back and forth and talking about, they were great. I have nothing bad to say about them. I have some buddies who shit on GMRs because you see a lot of cars, and especially in like the Hot Boy stance community, running GMRs.
Sure.
And a lot of people look at it as like the cheap way out. Now, in my specific situation, there was no way I could get, one, there's no way I could even get the Veil sides, and then two, there's no way I could even, if I did somehow get them, there was no way I was going to get them to look the way I really wanted them to look.
Sure.
So when they released this design, because the reason I have such an affinity for these wheels outside of the whole like Dom Toretto thing is back in the day, Veilside, and they still make Aero. Veilside still makes all the body kits and everything for the 3000 GT, but all of the Veilside demo cars, on like when you go to like their even today, if you go to their website and you look at the 3000 GTs, they all run the Andrew Racing Fs. And so that wheel was just like quintessential to this chassis, this car.
Yeah.
And so when GMR released because for years I actually would go on and I would like literally search for like Veilside Andrew Racing F reps.
Yeah.
Because like I knew I would search for the real ones, but I would always come up empty on that.
Yeah.
And so when they released these, I was like, holy fuck, my prayers are answered. Like finally, like a company is making like a reproduction of the actual wheel
that you want.
So I immediately, VR posted it on their Instagram, like just like a render. They hadn't even done like the first real one of it yet.
Yeah.
And I immediately went on their website, shot them an email, and started the whole process. I was like, hey, like I still need to get you the specs, but like, let's talk pricing, let's talk the finishes, let's talk build times. We started the whole conversation.
Yeah.
And then over time, I like I was telling you, I did shit tons of measurements.
Yeah.
I knew what the tolerances were for the camber arms, like how much camber I could dial in. I knew what the tolerances were for the camber plates in the front.
Yeah.
I did a bunch of measure. I got one of those little bolt-on things for
wheel
your hub with the
fenders.
sliders, and
Yeah.
Nova Speed Shop helped me out with that. And
Hell yeah.
I was out there with tape measures, and I had spreadsheets, and so I knew exactly fitment-wise what I could get away with without having to like chop up the car and like notch things, just using the aftermarket suspension components that I had installed.
Yeah.
And that's what led me to speccing these out. And they're 19 by 9.5 plus 22 in the front, 19 by 10.5 plus 19 in the rear.
Okay.
It's
very specific.
Very specific. So specific that I originally ordered a plus 20 in the rear.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting there like hyper fixating, and I ended up emailing them back. And I was like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but can we change the rear by 1 millimeter? And they were like, okay. And they had already started like the whole like design thing, but they, like I said, they were great, and they were very willing to work with me.
That is awesome, dude.
It's a 225 40 19 in the front, a 245 35 19 in the rear. Falcon ZX 510s all the way. I've always like religiously run Falcons on like all my cars that I love the way that Falcons stretch. I think they're like a quality tire, but they're not like super unobtainably expensive. They're still kind of like almost budget minded.
Yeah.
But I think they look great, especially when you stretch them. They have a good, tread life.
Yeah,
and I swear by Falcons.
Surprisingly smooth too. They stretch really nicely. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So you have the kit, right? So you have like a front splitter. You have what other body modifications do you have? I know you have the mirrors.
So the obvious thing is the wrap. It's Hexus Ashen Beige Metallic.
Okay.
It's a skillered front splitter.
Okay.
Real quick, I can't just glaze over that.
Sure.
So another product of like
research,
lucky circumstance.
Oh, yeah.
So Skillerd is still around, but they only make parts for Z car, like older like 240, 280, 260Zs.
Yeah, 2+2s and shit.
Back in the day, they used to make a bunch of shit for 3000 GTs.
Yeah.
And so when I first bought the car, like in 2019, they had like, I'm pretty sure they'd either just recently discontinued that splitter, or they were like in the process of like phasing it out, like get it while you can.
Okay.
And I was still very much just barely, breaking ground with doing anything to the car. And the splitter was a grip.
Yeah.
Because it's the way it mounts is super impressive. It actually has a jack pad underneath of it, and it replaces.
That's cool.
Yeah, it replaces. It's
So
double wall
chassis
jack
mounted.
pad. Yeah, you can jack it up from the splitter.
That's cool.
It replaces all the under tray plastic, and so
so it goes
pretty
deep.
far back.
Oh, hell yeah.
So that was always what I wanted. Well,
Yeah.
by the time I got around to where I had the car where I wanted it to be, and I was ready to buy the splitter, you couldn't get it anymore.
Yeah.
And so you never see them go up for sale.
Yeah.
And I was actually with EJ one day after Cars and Coffee. We were brunching. We had some mimosas and some some good stuff. But we were waiting for our food, and I opened up Facebook Marketplace, and
Fucking Marketplace.
like right there, like front and center, like dude had just posted it like 4 minutes ago, was a brand new, never installed, new in box skillet splitter specifically for this year bumper, which is this is a 94 to 96, so only 3 years that they made this bumper. And even luckier, it was a local guy.
Oh shit.
And even luckier, they came in 2 finishes, black powder coat and the raw aluminum. It was the black powder coat finish. So I messaged the guy and I was like, yo dude, like, I'm like, take it off.
Not
I'll
gonna
send you the
argue with
payment
the
right
price.
now.
Yeah.
I didn't even look at who, I was so like ecstatic. I didn't even look at who had posted it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll come by it, whatever. And he's like, oh, I can bring it to Cars and Coffee this weekend. I was like, wait, what? I look at who posted it. It's my buddy Kevin. He's another 3000 GT bro. And I'm like, wait, I was like, hold on. How long you been holding the skillet splitter? He had actually just gotten back from an estate sale.
Yeah.
The wife had posted, the husband had passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And he went and bought, I think it was 2 3000 GTs and 2 Stealths, and it was 2 running and driving cars and 2 parts cars.
Okay.
And in one of the parts cars, this was in a big box and it was just jammed into the car.
Yo.
And so, local, from a friend, bought it.
You
and,
have a dead dude's car part?
I'd wanted that shit for like years for owning the car, and it was the only.
At any cost.
At any cost. Oh, dude, I was like, name your fucking price. Go get a 401k loan to buy this shit. No, I paid a reasonable, I paid a fair chunk of change, but it was very reasonable for what it is.
It's limited in production.
I can almost guarantee you'll never find another new in box one. You might find like a used one that's like scraped up and shit.
Yeah.
But I got super, super, super lucky with that. And I know it looks like such a simple piece, but they don't make a lot of aero for the front of these cars. There's not a lot of like front lip options.
Yeah.
And this one's very subtle. It's cut to the bumper. It's all pre-drilled, all the holes. And so when I found this, it was like, I was like,
Fresh.
that's it.
Fucking chef's kiss, dude.
Otherwise, so, I know we mentioned earlier, I got the Bomex Aero mirrors.
Yep.
Very quintessential of the era. Like,
oh yeah.
I love the styling of them.
It fits the spaceship vibe to this
Very
car.
much so. They're useless.
Yep. Yeah.
They just look at the ground. It's helpful when I'm backing into like a parking space. I can see the lines.
Yeah.
But it's not helpful to see any cars behind me.
It already has a very
So I just
limited
throw that bitch
fucking
reverse.
view.
I'm like, good luck, everybody else.
Perfect.
And then, believe it or not, there's a bunch of shaved bodywork. So the front bumper normally has the Mitsubishi symbol that's recessed into the bumper. So if you took it off, you'd still have like the impression of the 3, the diamonds.
Yeah.
So the front bumper's been shaved. The factory mirrors actually mount to the doors.
Okay.
So when I put the Bomex mirrors on, I'd hold. So the holes have been smoothed and filled on the doors.
That's cool.
There's normally a power antenna on the right front fender of these.
That's filled.
Factoid. It's factoid time. Josh's fun facts.
Josh's fun facts.
The Spiders, the power antenna is on the front right fender. On all the other 3000 GTs, it's on the back left quarter panel. And the reason it's on the fender on these is because that big tonneau lid piece that normally folds up, they couldn't put the power antenna in the same location, so they rerouted it to the front fender. But anyways, I don't listen to the radio,
cool.
and it's so weird. So I shaved that, and then one of my favorite things in the car is the rear. The piece between the taillights, that has been shaved and smoothed.
Okay.
So there's normally on the coupe, there's normally your keyhole to pop the hatch. Well, obviously this doesn't have that. So Mitsubishi, understandably looking to save money to be cheap, they just put like a little like rubber like insert, like a grommet there, just to like fill that hole since there's no keyhole, and then just slap the Mitsubishi symbol over it to cover it. Makes sense. From a consumer standpoint, and for not making a special piece just for a limited run car. But I thought it was ugly. So I shaved it, and when I had the car wrapped by Status Garage, who did a phenomenal job, by the way.
Shout out to Viet.
Shout out to,
Or Kiet, sorry. Fucking. Shout out to Kiet. God damn. And both of them are going to kill me.
We're in Northern Virginia. We got a lot of Asian friends. So just like they probably think I look like just like every other white dude named Kyle. So.
Surprisingly, you look more like a Volkswagen owner than anything else.
I know. People get my ethnicity wrong all the time. I'm Italian, but people think that I'm all sorts of stuff.
I got this fucking thing in my eye and this shit hurts. So you
But
shaved.
yeah, I shaved that, and
Yeah.
I had him die cut the Spider logo.
Yeah.
And you would
so
be
that's a
hard.
vinyl.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
vinyl,
fuck.
and you would be hard pressed to know that that's not like factory.
Dude,
To me, if
yeah.
Mitsubishi had did it the right way, in my
Yeah.
opinion,
Yeah.
respectfully, they wouldn't have done the little grommet. They would have put the big Spider logo front and center
Yeah.
because that's kind of like the crowning thing of this car is that it's a Spider.
Yeah.
And so I had always had that idea. And so yeah, when I had the car wrapped and I had the bodywork done, had that shaved, had that sticker, and I think that really like ties the rear of the car together.
Hell yeah.
Otherwise, exterior wise, I mean, of course, I got the rack and the box.
Yeah.
It's,
So Josh, why the hell do you have a convertible hardtop
Yeah.
and a roof box on it?
It's a good question. So as one can imagine, a now 30-year-old, super complicated, electric, hydraulic, power hardtop
Sure.
has a lot of gremlins, has a lot of issues. And so when I bought the car, truth be told, the hardtop worked fine.
Yeah.
In the first year or two, really the times when I wasn't even driving the car, but like I would drive it every once in a while,
Yeah.
I would always put the top down, and
Yeah.
it worked fine.
Yeah.
And then of course, once I got into like the car being cool, that's when it started breaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over the course of like a year and a half, the top broke 3 times.
Shit.
And every time it broke, it found a new and exciting way to break. It wasn't like the same thing breaking over and over again. It was something new.
Yeah.
And it was to the extent where I was calling this guy his name's Frank Pearson.
Okay.
And he runs the 3000 GT Spider registry. And I was able to get his phone number and call him because I was having so much trouble with getting the top to like work.
Okay.
He was like walking me through shit over the phone.
Yeah.
So anyways, the first time it broke, it was a micro switch in the front passenger side header latch.
Okay.
That was super exciting to diagnose because you're talking about a piece that's covered by the A-pillar trim.
Yeah.
You have to take it apart and you find a little switch that's like soldered on that broke off. Then after that, it was a tension cable for the back left tension cable.
Yeah.
Got super loose.
Yeah.
So we retensioned that, and then was working good for a little bit, and then I was going to one of the Toys for Tots, one of the DCI Shambles Toys for Tots. I think it was like 2022.
Yeah.
I was going to that, and I went to put the top up, and the first thing that normally happens is like the tonneau lid, the windows go down, and then the tonneau lid starts raising.
Yeah.
And it just starts like shaking and making horrible noises.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, we're not going to do that. And come to find out, it has a hydraulic issue now. And so at this point, it's now been 3 times that it's broken.
Yeah.
I'm spending more time chasing down the issues, trying to like fix it
For something
than I
that's
am just
30 years old.
than I am driving the car.
Yeah.
So I had this like just wild, stupid idea
Yeah.
of putting a cargo box on a
Yeah.
hardtop convertible because 1, it kind of follows my MO of it's weird, it's quirky, it's different.
Yeah.
But 2, factoid time.
Josh's factoid.
Josh's factoid time. Spiders don't have trunks. There's no trunk. There's so there's a tiny little shallow area
Yeah, for shit.
that it's for the top to fold down. And when the top retracts and folds down into it, it's just barely big enough, it's just barely tall enough that when the top folds in on itself, it stores there. But it's so shallow, like you can't fit anything
Oh, no way.
realistic there.
Yeah.
So it's not like you couldn't put like all your car cleaning supplies and like all the shit I have in there. You couldn't put all that in there.
They literally just made this a grand tour. This is a toy car.
No trunk.
Yeah,
So the first
no
like
trunk.
year that I really like 2021 after I'd kind of like finished the first phase of this car when I was going to shows.
Yeah.
If I went to like a car show, I had to put all my shit in the back seat. Which looks terrible because
Yeah.
then people are coming around judging cars and you got all this bullshit in your back seat. And if you traveled somewhere,
Yeah.
now you got your fucking your duffel bags,
Your bucket and all
yeah,
your
your
shit,
wash
yeah.
bucket, and so the roof box was very much the product of okay,
You
the
actually
top
needed that shit.
The top is broken. I'm tired of fucking with it.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Yeah.
2 is it's a very weird, quirky.
Yeah.
It kind of follows my MO with how I like modifying and visualizing cars. Very, just out there.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people would think to do it on this car. I'm not saying I'm revolutionary, groundbreaking
No,
by putting
yeah.
a color matched roof box on a car. I know that's like a hot boy stancy thing to do right now, but
Right.
specifically on this car and on a hardtop convertible,
Right.
it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
And then 3, if you go and open it up, there's tons of shit in
shit
there.
in there.
All my cleaning supplies, there's a toolkit, there's chairs,
That's
there's my sunscreen.
fucking cool, dude.
And so it very, very much serves a purpose. And I've come to find it's a very polarizing, like you love it or you hate it.
Yep.
I recently took it off
Yeah.
to have it rewrapped just because the wrap was starting to show its age, whatever, and it's a small thing. So I was like, yeah, cool. Had Kia rewrap it for me.
Yeah.
And I posted a picture of it in my garage without the box, and like the mixture of comments, because it was like, I would say it was like 70-30. 70% of people prefer it with.
Yeah.
And they were like, put it back on, da 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 da. And I was like, no, like it's going back on. It's just getting rewrapped. And then you got like your lesser percentage of people that were like, thank God, like I love, now take the stupid rack off and it would look so good. And like, I get it. I 100% get it. It's a love it or hate it thing, but it's definitely here to stay.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll fix the top, but I'm certainly not in any rush. I love the functionality it offers.
I think it looks. I think the part of the reason why is probably because the car's like curvature is so.
Yeah.
You get to see it more, but I mean, you can appreciate both. Like.
Yeah, for sure.
I dig it, dude. I think it's fucking. It's definitely unique.
At this point, I feel it's become part of the car's character.
Yeah.
Like it's just it kind of helps tie the whole package together. And
Sure.
yes, it's been on the car since 2022. So like I feel like when I take it off, the car looks naked to me.
Yeah.
And maybe if I took it off and left it off for an
while.
extended period of time, I would kind of grow accustomed to how it looks without it. But I would hate not having it. Dude, it's so nice. I went to Import Expo DC recently.
Yeah.
And like I got a shirt from them, put it in the roof box. Like Erica had
Hell
like
yeah.
her purse and her book and shit.
Throw
Put it in the roof box.
Yeah.
Everything goes in the box. Nothing has to be in the interior.
Yeah.
So when you're at like a proper show like that,
And you can access it from the outside. You don't
yeah,
gotta
dude,
open the door or the trunk.
It serves so much purpose
That's
and
cool.
offers so much function. Like, and I like low key. I love the way it looks.
Yeah, yeah.
So no, it's here to stay.
It's
here to stay.
Your interior is also different. So
Yes.
the interior you were mentioning, it was run by, or you had Cypher seats.
Cypher Auto seats.
Yep.
And I went with those because, as I was saying, the interior is ivory leather. It's very hard to find an aftermarket seat
That
that
matches.
is that like somewhat, and it's not a perfect match, but it's close enough that like, especially it looks like through tint, I would say it looks more off than it really is, but inside the car,
Yeah.
like if you look at it against like the back seat or like the little inserts on the doors,
Sure.
on the door cards, it's pretty similar.
And the rear seats are pretty much useless.
Yeah, it's as with any like grand touring car
Yeah.
from the 90s, like the Japanese, like your Supras and shit like that. If someone were to sit in the back seat, I mean, their knees would just be pushing into the front seats at all times.
Yeah.
So no one's like ever even sat in the back seat, nor have they wanted
because
to.
it's got like that plating in the back, or like
The perforation.
So
the rear, the factory seats have the perforation, and then I have the perforation on the door cards, which is very of the era.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got the Cypher seats. I also have their seat. They have their own proprietary rails and sliders specifically for this car.
Oh hell yeah.
I got the Grip Royal, the GT steering wheel in cream because it's
So
again
good.
perfect match to like the seats and everything.
Yep.
I have some Garage Alpha floor mats.
Okay.
And they have it has like a laser cut, like CNC Spider logo on it.
Okay.
It's very like OEM plus.
And what's that hanging off the
That's
windshield?
so. For whatever reason, that is like people's favorite thing about this whole car. It's
Dude.
such a like stupid, like just random idea that I had.
Yeah.
So it's a PSP 1000. It's a first gen PSP.
Yeah.
And it's a Japanese market one.
Yeah.
That color was only sold in Japan, and obviously it's like a perfect match to
Yeah.
the exterior of the car. And then I have there was like a I don't want to call it a game, but like a program
Yeah.
called Go Explore.
Okay.
It was like Go Explore, where you could do GPS on PSPs.
On a PSP?
So the little module on top is actually a Sony GPS module.
Yo, does it have updated maps?
Yes.
Yo!
So Go Explore was originally only for Europe and Japan, but
Yeah.
then there's like a whole like Reddit, like subreddit community where people have gone and done all the mapping for the US.
Holy
now would
shit.
I trust it from like here to fucking like down the street? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, does it work? Yes.
Yeah.
Would I really trust it to get me where I need to go? No.
No.
It's there just for visuals. It
That's
looks
so
cool.
cool,
It's a
dude.
conversation piece.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, PSPs, you can do all sorts of cool shit with them. There's like camera attachments.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Go Explorer kit actually comes with the windshield mount.
That's so sick.
So that's actually meant for
It's a
like a
fucking
PSP.
PSP.
And so it's just a permanent fixture.
It's so sick, dude.
But yeah, otherwise, I mean, the interior's pretty much stock. I mean, it's other than the seats, the PSP, and like the steering wheel with like, of course, I got your, the hub and quick release and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, otherwise, I kept it pretty simple on the interior. I don't think it needed a whole lot.
No, not
just
at
kind
all,
of a
dude.
couple little accent pieces. And
The seats look great. They accent
yeah,
the car a
just,
lot. And like
just
it-
real
GT.
simple.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And then for the PSP is going to be my favorite thing, I think, on this car.
I get more questions about that
Yeah.
than anything else.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
that, and then like the second most fielded question is like, what color is this?
Yeah.
And then, or like, what are the wheels?
That's my other
Or why'd
question.
you put a roof box on a convertible?
That's my other question. So when buying this, like when having this car, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the, how many times do you have to explain like what the car is?
Every time I take it to anything, basically.
Yeah.
If
Where it's like,
I'm near
what
the
is
car and like people see it's my car, if I'm like opening the door or something, a lot of people will come over, and I've gotten all sorts of stuff. People, the one that I get a lot, and
Yeah.
I think it's because of what I did with the headlights. So
Yep.
that's just wrap on the top part of the headlight.
Yeah.
But it makes it look like almost like a sleepy eye.
Yeah.
Like it almost makes it look like it has pop-ups.
Yeah.
That combined with the profile of the rear with the spoiler
Yeah.
and the rectangular taillights, probably 20 times since I've owned this car,
Yeah.
people have either asked me if it's an NSX or just immediately come over and been like, hey man, I like your NSX. I'm like, cool bro, like
Thanks.
not at all what this is. That's kind of flattering because the NSX is like a completely different echelon of car.
Yeah.
But no, a lot of people, I guess because like the side vents and
it looks like it'd be a mid-engine rear-wheel drive car.
it's like
you
a
know what I mean?
fat NSX.
Yeah.
NSXs are much more
Same era too. I mean, shit.
yeah,
It's in the
same era of
same
car.
market.
It's like a big, bloated, overweight,
NS
front-wheel drive, automatic, slow NSX. Yeah.
like your ownership process. I mean, outside of the actual hard top and
Mm-hmm.
the transmission and whatnot. I mean, it's not. So I don't. And of course, I don't mean this in offense because it's not a turbo car. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's not as hard to maintain. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So
Correct.
I'm like, has this been fairly easy to own? Like
Once I got past the big gremlins in the beginning,
yeah.
yes.
So say if I was like a new, like, okay, I'm a kid, you've inspired me to buy one, right?
Yep.
Just by judging off the photos. Like, what would be your advice to me in owning either any chassis, just the chassis, right?
If you're not like super into, if you're not after performance, just get a non-turbo model.
Sure.
If you're really, really not after performance, the most like dead nuts reliable versions of these cars are the later. So the SL is technically a mid-trim level.
Yeah.
There's not for the Spiders, but for the regular 3000 GT, there's a trim that's lower than an SL,
Okay.
which has a single overhead cam 6G7.2. This is a dual
Okay.
overhead cam 6G7.2.
Okay.
There's technically like 3 variants of the motor for this chassis.
Very
you have the turbo
Japanese.
version, you have the non-turbo, and then you have the single overhead cam
Yeah,
version.
that's so Japanese.
But the single overhead cam version, 6G7.2, are like dead nuts reliable. Like people, there's guys on like the Facebook pages that like daily them and have like over 200,000 miles on.
Hell yeah.
Now, you're talking power though. Granted, being the Spider, it has all the extra reinforcement and shit, the chassis reinforcement from
Sure.
ASC. So this is like a 39 and change 100-pound car.
Holy
It's almost
shit.
a 4,000 with like the wheels and the box and everything. It's probably like a 4,000-pound car.
Holy shit.
So when you talk horsepower, like you have to take into account like power to weight ratios.
Yeah.
So the SL, the dual overhead cam SL makes 222. The single overhead cam SL makes 160.
Oh my God.
So when you're getting into a single overhead cam
Yeah.
6G7.2, I mean it's like
It's slow.
obnoxiously slow.
Yeah.
But you still get the looks. You're still
Yeah.
you're gonna spark up the conversations at the gas stations, cars and coffee shows.
Sure.
You're just kind of like a poser at that point because it looks like the Halo car, but like you have like a fraction of the horsepower of a VR4.
Yeah.
But with the SLs and the base models, you don't have you're not chasing down boost leaks. You're not chasing down, your active arrow's stuck down, your active exhaust is stuck open, your full wheel steering's fucked up. Like there's a lot of less bells and whistles.
Yeah.
And therefore there's a lot of less things that can go wrong.
They ended up in the later years taking off a lot of the bells and
They
whistles
did.
in the VR4 anyways.
They
so
did.
it's like
The first gen with the pop-ups was
Yeah.
really the one that was packed out with the most shit.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to make a statement. They were just
Sure.
kind of throwing shit at a wall and seeing what would stick.
Yeah.
And as they found out, a lot of the stuff didn't hold up, and so they started stripping away some of that stuff throughout the later years.
It happened to the Skyline series too. The same thing with like the Hikis.
The Hikis, yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
They throw in all the best stuff in the beginning of the era.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that shit really wasn't that reliable.
No.
Or needed or necessary for that matter.
And so, what I tell people with this car too, and I think this is the thing that confuses people the most, is when I was seeking this out, like I deliberately was looking for an SL, not a VR4.
Sure.
It wasn't like I was looking for a VR4 and I happened upon an SL. Like I wanted the SL because I knew what my plans were and my intentions were for the car.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense for me to get a VR4. VR4s also use completely different like control arms and coilovers.
Okay.
And they're a lot beefier, and therefore it's a lot harder to get it to sit like this, to get it to sit low. You gotta, it's not saying it's impossible, but you gotta do a lot more a lot more cutting and stuff to get a VR4 to sit like this.
It's like rear wheel drive versus all wheel drive trucks and shit like that.
Exactly, 100%.
I hear that. And the motor is, I mean, you have what mods are done to
just real basic bolt-ons.
Cool.
It's got an HPS wrinkle black intake.
Cool.
I chose to use the factory airbox though.
Oh yeah.
Just because I didn't like the open cone filter. And it sits these cars run super hot.
Yeah.
And so it was just pulling in all sorts of hot air. So I ended up putting the factory box back on. It has a little duct that pulls fresh air from the front bumper and everything.
Hell yeah.
It's like I said, Nova Speed Shop built me a custom 2.5-inch catback.
Nice.
Shockingly, this car has no mufflers, but it has a vibrant, super quiet resonator, and it's extremely, extremely mellow.
Shout out to Vibrant. I use them too.
Great products.
Oh yeah.
And then it's got HPS coolant hoses. It's got some just miscellaneous engine dress up from like 3SX and like Chase Bays, like oil cap, radiator cap,
Hell yeah.
plug wire cover, the radiator stay support cover. And then the factory crank pulley is like the harmonic balancer is 2 pieces. It has like a rubber, and so it starts to separate over time. And so 3SX sells a 1-piece billet one that's a little bit lighter than stock, but it doesn't create any like electrical interference or anything. So I have a 1-piece billet crank pulley.
Hell yeah.
Probably gets me like a whole 2 horsepower.
Yep.
But it prevents it from, I don't have to run into the situation of it like separating again. And technically doesn't have a harmonic balancer now.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because it's just, but I've read into it and I haven't really seen any horror stories. I mean, it's been on the car for years at this point, and I've driven it a bunch, and knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with it. But just your basic bolt-ons. Nothing. Wasn't really trying to make power. I just mostly boredom mods and just making shit look cool under the hood.
Hell yeah.
So, and then it's got some. I got some. What is it? Power Stop. Slotted drilled rotors, and then their Z16 ceramic pads front and rear.
Hell yeah.
But factory calipers and everything. I mean, it's which you can't even see them because the wheels I had before and the wheels I have now, like you can't even see the fucking brakes of the wheels.
The SC430 wheels is just like cool. It's a wheel.
Exactly. But I'm a guy who I like to touch every area of the car.
Sure.
In some capacity. So I at least wanted to put some upgraded brakes on it.
Yeah.
It's a big girl.
Yeah.
So knowing that I can stop if I need to is paramount. So
your overall part in journey of this car. Mm-hmm. So because not like you were saying, it's very different, it's very unique. Throughout the course of this entire journey where you've got it so far, I'm assuming you're not done, right?
I mean, technically, no. I do have some underglow for it.
Hell yeah.
I'm going to come here to, EJ and I are going to throw that on one afternoon.
Stacked Auto House.
Yeah, Stacked Auto House.
Yeah.
For all your upgrade and aftermarket needs, in addition to the car storage.
Yeah, car storage, maintenance, and preservation.
I do have some
preserve.
I do have some underglow for it.
Yeah.
Just a white underglow kit. I didn't want the 6 billion fucking RGB. Like I don't need my car to shit rainbows and stuff. I just wanted just the classic white because I thought it goes well with the overall color profile.
Yeah.
So I have underglow for it. The big conversation I had the other day with Kiat when I was picking up the box is obviously with wraps they have a shelf life, and he was asking me, okay, so let's say you got another year or two left with this, what's next? And I don't know because I really, really like this color.
Sure.
So I mean, maybe a color change in the future at some point because it's hard for me to justify spending that kind of money to take this off, put the exact same color back on.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to paint it because, as I mentioned before, the rarity of the car,
Exactly.
and the fact that it's it's a very neutral color. It just kind of makes sense to wrap it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I mean, overall, the wheels were a big missing piece of the puzzle for the longest time.
was
And then
done well, dude.
GMR kind of like came to my rescue when they released that, and so that checked that box for me.
Yeah.
The splitter was a big missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
That just kind of fell out of the heavens into my lap, and so
Yeah.
no, I'm really happy and content with the car as it sits. Maybe
yeah.
I'll upgrade some of the stereo components.
Yeah.
It has a media play, like a Bluetooth media player.
Yeah.
So I can listen to my music off my phone and shit. But
Yeah.
it's the factory speakers and everything, so they sound like 30-year-old speakers.
Yeah.
So I think I may eventually pull the the door cards off and upgrade to some nicer speakers and everything. But
Hell yeah.
But otherwise, I don't think, from a visual standpoint, there's nothing I really want to do performance-wise.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty happy and content with where it sits.
It's a cruiser.
It's a cruiser.
Hell yeah,
and
dude.
it do be cruising.
It
so,
do be cruising. What?
Yeah.
Of all the cars that you've driven, what does this car closely drive like?
Well, it's big, it's bouncy.
Yeah.
So my Miata was bouncy because
Yeah.
I'd Hot Boy Spring Race on
Static.
that.
Yep.
Static.
Yeah.
It's like a giant version of my Miata.
Hell yeah.
And it's weird because the Miata was rear-wheel drive, it was turbo, it was 6-speed. This is
Yeah.
front-wheel drive, non-turbo automatic. But
Yeah.
they were both older Japanese cars. I mean, this is obviously much older than the Miata by 10 years.
Yeah.
But they're both Japanese, slam Japanese, convertibles
Yeah.
with stiff spring rates, aggressive fitment.
Yeah.
It's like a big Miata that handles like shit. But beyond that, there's nothing else I really have that's super comparable to it.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's very comparable to my RX-7.
Yeah. Or the Crossfire.
Yeah, definitely not the Crossfire. And then I've had some other little dailies and shit throughout the years, but nothing that was really similar to these.
Yeah. Before we start, or before you finish, what is your favorite part of this car?
So I would say my favorite thing about the car as a whole
Yeah.
is just the rarity of it.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I don't think, because a lot of people ask me what's next.
Yeah.
And I don't think, at least
Like
as of right now,
car-wise or mod-wise?
I don't, what's that?
Car wise or mod wise?
Car wise.
Okay. Okay.
Because, generally speaking, my track record, I usually keep a car 4 or 5 years and then start another project. I'm already past the 5-year mark on this.
Yeah.
But, for the price point and for just how rare this car is and how much conversation it never fails to spark up.
Yeah.
And just seeing how happy it makes people.
Yeah.
It's not to say I build my car for the enjoyment of others.
No,
but
for sure.
It's always cool to, have people really, really interested and excited to see your car. And
Yeah.
that always feels good. It's a
Yeah.
serotonin boost. Mm-hmm. I don't think that, for the price point, what I could sell it for, that I'm going to get anything even remotely close in terms of just the visual wow factor and the rarity.
Yeah.
So I think it's a rare gem in that regard. I paid, full disclosure, I paid $10,500 for this car. In 2019.
Jesus.
Yeah. Now, granted, car market's gone crazy, and
Yeah,
you
but
couldn't buy this for $10,500 now.
No,
probably,
not at
but
all. Especially 30,000 miles. Holy shit.
31,000 miles on it and $10,500. So yeah, there's nothing I could really get that would check all the boxes for an even remotely close price point.
Yeah.
I would say favorite thing I've done to the car, it would probably be a toss-up between either the wrap, the color.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's very understated, very unique.
Yeah.
I think it really just kind of gives the car its own sense of character.
Yeah.
And then the wheels. And the wheels, that was kind of always the vision for this car. Was
Yeah.
I wanted the aggressive fitment. I wanted 19s. I wanted the big lips and everything. And so when GMR came out with these wheels, I was ecstatic. And they were that, and then the splitter, but more so the wheels were really the missing component that I felt the car had needed all along.
Yeah.
And I got really lucky where a company decided to make the wheels I'd kind of yearned for all that time. And I think that really was the cherry on top.
Dude, it's very underestimated, but very heavily accented. And I think that's if I was to summarize the car, it's a very underestimated but heavily accented car.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It's a front wheel drive automatic GT Cruiser, which sounds wild, like it's
Yeah,
almost hard
it's
to, but
not a lot of cars that. Yeah,
you look at the inside of the car. This is not a cheap car. You know
No,
what I mean?
not
it's
at
not.
all.
It's not a. It's yeah, sure, it's slow, but it's not like a. Like it was meant for comfort. It's meant for cruising. It's for two. It's a toy car. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Like,
For sure. No trunk.
Yeah, no
like we
trunk.
were saying,
Like,
yeah.
I appreciate it heavily about this. And
I appreciate it.
My like the journey that you've taken on every single one of your cars has always been, in my opinion, very unique, and that's part of the reason why we're here on this interview is because
For sure.
I don't know anybody that has a taste like yours. My final question for you today:
Yeah.
overall, in the course of the journey of this car, what was your favorite part of the journey?
Gosh, I don't know. I think my favorite part of the journey was when I went to Beach Bash
Yeah.
in 2021.
Yeah,
That
was a good year. That was fun.
That was a great year.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sumo Speed.
Thank you, Sim Speed.
Yeah, when I went to the Beach Bash in 2021, that was the first time that I had ever really kind of seen. That was the first time it was like the dream realized.
Yeah.
You know, I was still technically it wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be. I still did a couple other things to it after the fact to get it to where it's at now. But that was right after I did the wrap, right after I did put the SE430 wheels on, the
Yep.
coilovers. Kiet and I finished, well, mostly Kiet finished getting the car together like literally the night before I left, and so. So yeah, I would say that was, driving it down all the way down to the Outer Banks, kind of on like an untested setup. You know? And okay, full disclosure, I rubbed through my wiring harness on that trip. And,
Oh,
and
I remember
I also
that.
tore my my CV boots on both front axles. So
Jeez.
the car did make it back in one piece.
Yeah.
Had Nova Speed Shop, rebuild the harness and relocate it and everything. But yeah, 2021 Beach Bash was probably my favorite like overall experience with the car because it was no longer just a stock 3000 GT Spider. It was kind of like the culmination of all the hard work, all the visions I had kind of brought to life, and then being
Yeah.
able to take it to a big show like that and like catch up with all the homies, and they got to all come over and check the car out. And I won an award that year.
Yeah.
And first show I ever entered in, and won an award. So
Yeah.
I think that really stands out in my mind.
Yeah, dude. Like down to the deadline.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
You know what I
dude.
mean?
I mean, I was kind of at the point where I was like, I don't know if I'd already registered and everything, but I was
don't
like,
think I'm gonna make
I was
it.
going down with like the usual suspects, AJ, Neil,
Yeah,
Corey.
yeah.
I was like, fuck, dude. I mean, I'll just ride down with one of them, like,
Yeah.
and just
And
sit
have
this
fun.
one out. But it all kind of minus the like wiring harness thing and the axle thing. It all mostly worked out. The car made it down and back.
Yeah.
A little worse
Small
for wear on the way
things.
back, but
Yeah.
shit that it was fixable. So
Dude, I cannot wait to see how much longer, or especially the next color that you choose, because that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see like the next few years in this car.
For sure.
I also can't wait for your next cars. I don't know when that is. I know it's tough.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Between this and the truck, man, I'm really happy
Yeah.
with especially I just rewrapped the truck, and
Yeah.
so I'm very happy with my current lineup. I think the next car that I would get, but it wouldn't be a replacement for this.
Sure.
It would be in addition to this.
Sure.
And I'd probably keep it at stacked.
Yeah.
Is I really want a late model Lotus Esprit,
Oh yeah.
like a late '90s, early 2000s. I love. They did not a facelift. They did like an ass lift where they changed the
Yeah.
taillights in the last couple years. Like
Yeah.
I think it's like the 01 to 03s. They did
Yeah.
an ass lift, so that would be like my sweet spot.
You get into a performance car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I would, it would be lowered, but I would have like full size tires and everything. So Lotus Esprit, late model Lotus Esprit.
Elise or Esprit?
Esprit.
Esprit.
Twin
yeah.
turbo V8.
Twin turbo
Yeah.
V8.
And I mean, it would be low, of course, but it wouldn't be like stretch tires and camber. I would slam it, maybe do some HREs or something, full size tires,
Yeah.
just basic bolt-ons, upgrade some of the turbo components and, the hard pipes and stuff like that, and like a carbon, front lip and
Yeah.
whatever. It wouldn't be like anything over the top. It would be a very conservative build because
Yeah.
I don't think those cars need a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like my all-time, this is like my achievable dream car.
Yeah.
And Esprit is still technically achievable, but I mean, you're definitely kind of in a different bracket of car.
Yeah.
I paid $10,500 for this. I'm not going to pay $10,500 for an Esprit.
Yeah.
But that, I think, if I can get all the finances in line and I can get the wife's approval and everything, that would be an in addition to car to this.
I think the beautiful thing is that I see a lot of effort to keep the 90s still alive out of you.
My license plate.
Yeah, man.
Literally the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know how else to appreciate that because I'm a fan of the early 2000s. It was the 90s on Miami cocaine. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
very much
like,
so.
It when like the amount of European, like, because I love European history, you know what I mean, on cars. So it's like the amount of effort that they put into, like the B5 S4 is like a stupid amount of tech on a car that's like was not supposed to have that much performance. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So, but the 90s was there's two turning points arguably in automotive history, or three, which is the worst one, which is in our current era. But it's the 90s. There's obviously everything in the 80s was amazing, and well, aside from the EPA and all that kinds of shit that we had in the U.S., but
No
it was
doubt.
like the 90s was like, cool, we're gonna put tech in stuff, and we're gonna make things different, and we're gonna advertise in markets when we have the time frame to, because it was a good time frame for that market and that part of the world or time in the world. Then the early 2000s was the same thing too. It was a good time to start, the .com bubble and stuff like that.
Yep.
It was like time to push, what engineering and whatever we can. And then like you get to 2010s and it's like, fuck.
Oh yeah. Well, that's when cars started. The 2010s is where you had a turning point where a lot of cars started becoming very cookie cutter.
Yeah.
They were doing away with a lot of the colors. Everything was just
Stakeholder cars.
It was just black, gray, silver, white.
Yep. It was all cars to or to build for the stakeholder and not for the consumers. So.
Exactly. It was just to turn a profit, which I get.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a business. You got to, you're there to make money. But yeah, I'd say the 2010s was really a big turning point for where you saw a lot of the creativity and individuality of cars just start to go
decrease.
And it's not completely gone in the modern age, but it's not like the wild west like it was in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s.
It's actually a good argument. I think it's a lot more like the market's more fragile now because like one wrong car could tank a company.
100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So, but Josh, dude, I am so excited to have done this today. I cannot
Likewise,
thank you
man.
enough for coming to do
Absolutely,
this interview.
dude. My pleasure.
I need the comments everybody in the comments to, first off, let me know what else you want to see about Josh's car. I should have a whole bunch of pictures and photos of his previous vehicles and all the modifications that are done to this car. But let Josh know, what you like about the car and if you like it without the box or not.
Yeah.
His Instagram handles are going to be in the description below. It's also going to be right here. You can follow him on Instagram. Do you have anything else on Instagram or it's just Instagram?
Instagram and no, that's it.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like Facebook.
Yeah,
if you're like my actual friend.
Yeah.
But otherwise just Instagram. Yeah.
Make sure you tune in on his IG and look at the future and the process of this build. He also writes for S3, which is awesome, and also would like for him to start writing for District Imports.
That'd be rad.
And we have probably a podcast coming out later this year, and we still got to iron out all the details. EJ wants to get on and do some crazy shit like that too. Look at him being all handsome over there. Y'all can't see him, but he's looking handsome.
If you want a 9-hour podcast,
Yeah, exactly. That's why you need Josh.
Kyle and I, it'll be the longest fucking podcast.
Dude, this is the
you'll
only
ever watch.
Only interview where we had to have a lunch break and like a pee break.
Lunch break, a pee break, several camera battery swaps. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I appreciate it. This
Absolutely,
is
dude.
an amazing car.
Thank you.
For the most part, it is extremely unique. It tailors to your personality.
For sure.
And anything else you want to tell the viewers?
No, just don't be afraid to build something weird and different. I see too many people just kind of taking the easy route, and I wish more people wanted to go against the grain and just. I know it's the path, less traveled. It's harder. It's more expensive, but in my opinion. Respectfully, it's that much more satisfying when you get to the end than buying like a BRZ or something and just doing like the same shit everybody does to it.
Lonely driver.
Yeah, and it's like just do something different.
Yeah,
like, it takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's like the end product is so much cooler.
The effort's worth it.
So that's all.
Yeah, dude. All right, man. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Like,
man.
comment, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
Cool, dude.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yo, bring it in. That shit. I wanted to do this for so long. You have no idea.
Yeah,
I wanted to interview
man.
you for so long because. Yeah, I know, but it was just such a fucking raw interview, dude. Like, I had a lot to talk about. It felt so fucking good.